What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Gamer Podcast, episode 19. I am your host, Antonius DaGamer, joined by Mykale Smith. Super SSS rank could not be with us this evening, so we are holding it down in his stead. Tim, a lot of things. We're getting towards the end of the year. Got a couple more weeks. Other than the Game Awards surprises, I don't know if there's going to be really any other sneak rollouts before 2023 wraps up. We did get a unofficial, official Grand Theft Auto announcement between last pod, where it's like, yeah, we got a we got an official press statement of a Grand Theft Auto property is going to be announced next month. We don't know if it's GTA 6. People are assuming it is. It could be GTA, not spin-off, but you know how like they have their numbered titles and then the other things they're trying to do. So time will tell what we're getting GTA wise. Obviously, we can't ignore the leaks, but it looks like we're going back to both of the our areas of upbringing, South Florida.
Mm.
Uh, any thoughts about the leaks and the premise and uh, just the wait, the literal 10-year wait between Grand Theft Auto installments?
Um, I'm glad it's finally over. I would
Mm,
definitely say that, bro. 3 generations of Grand Theft Auto 5 just being thrown at you. That was a lot. That
yeah,
was a lot, bro. Because it's like, I remember we had so many running jokes about, like, how much more updates can this game get, bro? Like, they would release another update for online, another. It's like, bro, like, it was like at one point, I felt like they had like a Tron update where you was doing like these crazy loop de loops and these psycho cars.
yes, they did for like a racing update. Yeah, 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 yeah. Mm-hmm.
It was just like, wow, like, is this what Grand Theft Auto is becoming? South Florida. I mean, that's very interesting. I could already tell which area of South Florida they're probably going to go for. So it's
Mm-hmm.
going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Like, I feel like it's going to be from, I would say, probably from North Miami down, I would say. Because,
To
they
like the
don't venture
Keys.
there. Yeah, yeah, I would say that. I would
Okay.
definitely say that
Mm-hmm.
from North Miami all the way down to the Keys. Because, anything above, like they don't even venture to Miami Gardens because that's too close to Broward civilization. They want to
Residential
keep
area.
yeah they want to keep that Miami theme in their head of what people think Miami is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I mean I'm
We get
looking
to we
forward
get to
to
see
it.
the new version, the gentrification version of Brickle on the consoles now. Oh
No, no, I
look.
mean
Go ahead.
honestly, bro, that would be very interesting in terms of like missions and stuff like that, different groups, different cliques. So that would be very interesting to see how they explore that, like the real landscape and the the culture part of what Miami is.
Hmm. What do you think about in term? I mean, because it has been 10 years, right? The societal culture has changed. What we accept as humor, quote unquote, has changed over the years. Grand Theft Auto, in a lot of ways, has kind of mimic a lot of the same properties as The Sims, right? Where there's a lot of things you could do mini game wise. Is there anything that you think that going forward, let's just say this is Grand Theft Auto 6, that they are probably going to have to kind of like shy away from going into you know this very outspoken generation, let me say, that we're in currently?
Um, I would definitely say no, no homophobia, no transphobia. I do feel like that would be ultimately be a game killer for them.
Mm, mm,
Um, Most definitely, yeah, especially those two aspects. I do feel like that would be something that they really shy away from. And then, of course, to be very, very, very sincere about shootouts in certain places, like churches, schools,
mm,
because I feel like, due to where the world has been going, over the last few years and the amount of shootings that we've had, like, bro, that is something that I don't think it's funny at all to implement into a game. Because, look what happened even during our Modern Warfare 2 era with the no Russian mission. Look how
oh,
crazy. that
Yeah,
went to the
the
point where
airport scene.
when you replay that stage, they gave you the option to just skip it.
Yeah,
Because I did feel like, bro, that was a lot.
I, I at the time and even now, I don't. I do appreciate the option that they gave you to skip it. I'm glad that they included it, and the only reason why I say that is because I think it was innovative at that time, right? I think we had moved away from the soldiers coming to stop, foreign terrorists angle by that point in gaming already. So to have that angle of like, all right, we're gonna put you into the minds of these bad guys, these antagonists. I think that's part of the reason why Modern Warfare 2 has had such a legendary like impact in that within that franchise. Like it really wasn't afraid to innovate in ways that might be even controversial at that time.
Hmm.
But you're right. I think, and to my recollection, I can't remember Grand Theft Auto ever doing anything school wise or church wise, in their series, in terms of using it as a location. So I don't know if that would change now.
Yeah, and I just felt like, because especially where, like, how, as Jory been saying, in terms of like open world mechanics, people just want to be able to do more with the buildings and the world around them. And I'm just thinking about the minds of people, bro, and sometimes how very left things could go. And I do
Mm,
feel like, yeah, like, let's not venture into that area, please.
true.
Because
Yeah.
somebody will do it, and guess what? They're gonna upload it to
Yeah.
Twitch, YouTube, and just the amount of clickbait that it's just going to get is disgusting.
Yeah. That's true. Uh, now that you're saying, like, I do think about like as cool as it would be to have, for me, I'm more about the immersion now more so than the size. So even if the rumors are true and it's going to be not as big of a sandbox this time, but you can do more, I'm fine with that within the space that we're given. But you're right. I just off that premise alone, like I can't see us being able to enter like a corporate lobby and like opening fire on the office attendants because it just doesn't leave a good taste, like you said, given where the world is right now.
Mm.
So I think that's gonna be probably their biggest hurdle in terms of story, because Grand Theft Auto has never been afraid to kind of like push the limits of what can be accepted um, within their games, and they're not afraid to poke funs at certain groups of people either. So watching them kind of walk that line in this game is gonna be, I don't want to say make or break, but it might be right. I think that was one of the critiques that we all agreed upon with Saints Row with the reboot, where it's like it was just so, for lack of a better term, woke. We're just like, this is not a game that we're supposed to take seriously. Why are you making all this meta commentary? This I was just wearing a cat helmet and beating people down with phallus shaped baseball bats, to stay PG. One entry, 2 entries ago. What is this? So I think that there is that fine line of like, you kind of have to be able to take the comedian's approach because it is Grand Theft Auto of like everyone can get it, and therefore that's what allows the subject matter to open up, while also, like you said, being mindful of people are just not as much in the mood for those types of humor anymore.
Yeah,
You know, they're not as forgiving as they were 10, not even 5 years ago. People are very, very much on edge. Um, yeah, I think that's really. I mean, we don't know much, right? We don't know much outside of the league, so
yeah.
it's hard to really do like a deep dive on it. But it was just interesting that they're like, yeah, we're officially doing Grand Theft Auto something, and you'll know more in a couple of weeks. Um, I guess last thing, do you think that they
After
need to
after
go ahead?
one more online update, because
Oh
you
yeah,
already
no, of course. Even during the rollout, there will be another update. Don't they will continue to bank on that, and I don't blame them. Do you think that they need any? Because I've seen this throughout the week on different platforms. Do you feel like they need any type of rollout platform? Like, does anything Grand Theft Auto related need to debut at like the Game Awards, or can they just kind of like drop on YouTube and still rack up millions of views?
Um, I think YouTube is still fine because I've come to realize, bro, like, especially after COVID, it's kind of like some of these events, do we really need them anymore? Like, the way how people are just been so integrated into their phones, like a simple YouTube notification really justifies it. Like, yeah, we still like the nostalgia of like a Game Awards and E3, Tokyo Game Show. We still love the nostalgia of these events. But like when it comes to certain announcements, I don't think they really are necessary anymore.
I kind of disagree, only because I don't want us to get to a point where we're only relying on the comfort of our phones, right? I think, yes,
Hmm.
COVID showed our ability to adapt. We lost some things along the way. Rest in peace, E3. You will be missed. But I don't think we need to move away from social interactions um, the way we had to during those times, right?
Hmm.
Concerts are already becoming a little bit more rare. Tours are becoming a little bit more rare when it comes to the music side. People aren't really going to the movies, so I think the more we remove these social interactions, as mentally tiring and as emotionally tiring as they can be in the social setting, like, I think you still need those things, especially in the gaming space. Like, I don't think it needs to be like a Twitch only, or I don't think even though the Game Awards are doing Fortnite hosting this year as well, I don't think that needs to be the new standard for the gaming industry going forward. I think there is something to be said about still congregating in the space and still having and now the debut trailer of whatever it is in like in addition to the YouTube notification.
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, we spoke about it enough, kind of opening up. Let's get right into it. The Game Awards, they not finally, they officially released their nominees for different categories. I'm gonna bring up the list right here. We can kind of go through it and give our thoughts.
Right.
Maybe we'll do like an official, like, I guess, selection. Once Jory can join us on the next episode, but at least for now, we can kind of go over the nominees, decide who should have been there, should not have been there, any type of upsets or things that you might have seen that you weren't expecting. And let's see what we got here. For people who are listening, you'll just have to, I'll read off the roster, but for people who are watching, I am going to have the list available for us to view. All right. So, should we start with Game of the Year and kind of work our way down?
Yeah, we can go ahead.
All right. Okay. So, 2023 Game of the Year nominees, we have Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Marvel Spider-Man 2, Resident Evil 4, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, and The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Now, Tim, is there anything on this list that kind of caught you off guard as like, how did this get here? Why is this
Ac-
here?
Actually, at first it was Spider Man because I was like, bro, this just came out. But then I realized it has been such an anticipated game for so long, and the reviews came in so fast to the point where, like, yeah, I guess what whoever was supposed to be there before, he got kicked out and replaced with something else.
Sorry, Jedi Survivor.
It just actually, and it's funny how you say that because I think that probably was the exact game.
Yeah. I'm not gonna say that, and the reason why is because to what you said about Spider-Man 2, that's how I felt about Alan Wake 2. I'm like, that game literally came out like a week before the nominees got released. How?
Mhm.
How is it nominated for Game of the Year? I didn't even. I felt like I saw the game release, the reviews, and then the nominees, and it was on the list. I'm like, how is it game? It just came out. I think it came out like on Halloween, right?
But I think it was like a counter, like in terms of survival horror ish. Like, yeah, it's a survival, but it has like psychological elements. And, Resident Evil 4, like, that was a great remake. And, and
Mm-hmm.
I do feel like, the Ada Wong DLC added some new life to it. Because to be
Mm.
honest, that's where I think why Resident Evil 4 was alone selected. Because the more complete edition with the Ada Wong DLC added a lot more depth.
That's a good point. And what's crazy too, like now that you said that, like we did get the Ada Wong DLC within the same release window.
Yeah.
Like you were saying before the show, typically we're used to seeing DLC the following year for like a critical success. And it's like, no, we got the game towards the top of the year and the DLC towards the end of the year, and the DLC was well received and well executed.
Hmm.
Um so that's a good point. As far as the two Nintendo categories, were you surprised? Do you feel like they didn't weren't
Zelda.
being there?
Zelda definitely being there. Mario is just. I think that's for more for like flagship reasons. Like,
Mm.
since Mario is literally like the face of Nintendo, it's like, oh yeah, Zelda's there, but we didn't release a Mario game too, so like I said, throw a little money at the reviewers.
But then even with that though, it's like I was telling you before the show, I bought it, I played it. It's really really good. It's really fun. It's
Hmm.
something where it's like if I was having a games night, I would be like, "Yo, y'all come over. I have two extra controllers. Let's play Super Mario Bros. Wonder." It's enjoyable. I don't know if that warrants it for Game of the Year, but
Yeah.
I liked it.
I mean, well, I take a look at this. I remember one time when Little Big Planet won Game of the Year, so I guess maybe that type of feel is very similar.
Hmm.
So I could see it being that, I would say,
Yeah,
because
because
we've seen it done before.
right, and like we'll move on to the next category. But I think one of the things that comes to mind or came to mind while I was playing it is that it reminded me this the same way I described the PS5 Ratchet and Clank to you guys. I'm like, it's just a fun video game.
Hmm.
It's there's no complex storyline, there's no gripping narrative. It's just a video game that's just really enjoyable. It's the core of what we all started gaming wise. It's Mario. It's 2D. It's fun, and that's it. This doesn't get any deeper than that.
Right.
So yeah, that's the game of the year categories. We'll move on to the next category and let's see what pops up. That would be best game direction. When I hear direction, I just think of pacing, how the story was executed or not executed. So we have Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Marvel Spider-Man 2, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, and Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. What's your thoughts?
I mean, it's the same thing almost as Game of the Year minus one person. So I mean, I would definitely say, from the games that I've experienced, I would say Spider Man.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I mean, you know what? Actually, this is a good little segue because you weren't able to make it to the Spider-Man episode breakdown when me and Jory like really got into the deep dive. What do you think? Now that's being nominated as Game of the Year, now it's being nominated for Best Direction. What were your thoughts about the game overall?
It's a good setup for part three,
Hmm.
in many many ways in terms of future villain choices, villain conclusion, and just even how they revitalize like old concepts from the PS2, PS3 era. I was like, we was not expecting Web of Shadows Part Two.
This is
We was
true.
we was
This is
not
true.
expecting that, bro. I was like, okay, you took this Venom story a little farther than I thought.
Yeah.
It was good, man. It was really really good. I am looking forward to see what future news we get from it.
Hmm.
Obviously, there's nothing coming this year since we're basically about to enter the last month. But
You don't think we're getting like a DLC trailer at the Game Awards or anything like that?
it's too early. Too early.
Okay.
I
Okay.
don't I don't think I don't and I'll be honest, I don't have that much faith in in that aspect. I do feel like we'll get something from Sony. What I would think what we will get from Sony is Ragnarok DLC.
Okay. At the Game Awards, that
Yeah.
that makes sense. That makes sense.
Hmm.
Or the announcement of whatever standalone expansion, whatever it is that they're going to be doing with that property.
Yeah.
I'm sure they've seen the whispers about whatever happened with the ending. What happened to that mask? What's Atreus doing? Like I'm you're right. I think it'd be surprising if we don't get something. Um,
Yeah, I do feel like we're going to get some form of epilogue DLC.
mm,
Which we've seen from like time to time, like a nice epilogue DLC, like to really wrap up the loose ends. Because remember what they said, they're not doing another trilogy, so this is literally the only option left.
right. To kind of flesh out that remaining the loose ends of that story.
Hmm.
Yeah, I would agree. I know we said we're not voting, but I would agree that Spider-Man 2 would probably be my pick, just from the games I've experienced as well.
Hmm.
Or just even from the understanding I've had of the other games, right? Where it's like apparently Tears of the Kingdom tells a very loose story where like the freedom is kind of prioritized over the narrative, even though there's a narrative there. And then Baldur's Gate 3, it's more about the freedom of customization and the ability of um Orc number 3 will remember that, like that kind of thing of like it's this it's this segmented Telltale games on a big budget scale, which is there's nothing wrong with that.
Mhm.
I just don't feel like in terms of like if it's telling a story from start to finish, I think Spider-Man 2 still got it done. Yes, it didn't like wow us in terms of the symbiote story, right? Like, oh, Peter gets angry and emo and isolates himself from his friends. It was nothing, it didn't break any new ground in that regard. But I
Mhm.
still think it hit certain beats where like I was telling Jory, even his eventual like clash with Miles, I'm like, I felt something. I was like, wow, they did this really, really well
Mhm.
of having that conflict, even though it was inevitable, means something more than just like, all right, check off this box. When it comes to the symbiote thing, and even though I didn't want Web of Shadows 2, I'm like, okay, they went there. I wasn't expecting it. Like I wasn't expecting them to do this, but okay. And they're going with the whole swirly King of the Symbiotes insignia and everything. I was like, oh, okay, we're really going for it. All right.
Mhm.
So that I think it deserved to be nominated. Is what I'll say for now. All right, moving to the next category, which I guess I should have checked beforehand. 'Cause I think it kind of steps on our earlier point of maybe there is something that differs the two. As a best narrative, nominees are Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Cyberpunk 2077, the DLC. I don't have the name up right now. Phantom Liberty. There we go. Final
Mhm.
Fantasy 16 and Marvel's Spider-Man 2. Like you said, Tim, most of the list from the previous selection is there. Do you feel like, well, the real question is, do you feel like Cyberpunk did enough to redeem itself as a property with this DLC? The CD Projekt Red reignite the people's belief in them
I
with
think they
this.
did. I think they did.
Mm,
Yes, what happened with the original release was very detrimental towards, the company name, legacy. But I do feel like this DLC is getting into people's good grace. Because, for
mm,
example, bro, like I tell people, bro, No Man's Skies, that's an internal game, bro.
mm-hmm,
Like, that game just, like, it rose from the dead and just
mm-hmm.
kept going, kept going, kept going. Even when I thought they were done, I was like, yeah, bro, you already got back in the good graces. Oh, yeah, you know what? 5 more updates. And it
Yeah.
just keeps going, bro. And I was like, that's a prime example, man. When you are really committed, you are committed.
Would
You
you
are.
feel like that's a good point, and I think you're right. It's. I mean, granted, how you start does play a part, but it is kind of how you finish when it comes to these games. But do you feel like there was enough there with Cyberpunk to kind of salvage it? Because we look at Redfall, right, where Redfall has not been doing well commercially, critically at all, and it looks like more and more that the developers are probably going to abandon it at this point.
Mhm.
In situations like that, in situations with Cyberpunk, is there a time and space where there's just too much has already gone left to kind of salvage what's there at the game? Like, was there at the core of Cyberpunk, was there enough where like I could see the potential to save this game?
I would say it's because of the world, man. The world is very beautiful. And I do feel
Mm,
the Netflix anime kind of really sparked a lot of interest back into it. And then that goes back to our previous conversations about multiple forms of media. People are invested into this world, bro.
mm-hmm.
So, and it came out this console cycle, like especially during the transition point. So there is still a lot of room for this thing to grow. I do believe there should be more DLC after this, I believe.
Mm-mm.
But
The developer
it
said they're moving on to the next. If anything, they'd be starting Cyberpunk 2. They're not going to do any more DLC.
okay. I
They've
mean,
already
well,
confirmed it.
okay. Well, if that was the conclusion of that, and you just want to build on a better world, so be it. Because first of all,
Okay.
look, they ran The Witcher down into the ground, bro, for 2 generations.
They did. Great game though,
Yeah.
but they did. Great game. Yeah, and let's call it for what it is. Like you said about the world, it's a very beautiful game. I think there's been a lot of just overall critique, not just with Cyberpunk, but with across platforms about what the current gen cycle has looked like. And it's like you've seen that narrative, like, what do you mean this game couldn't run on PS4 on a previous gen Xbox? What's so great about it? And I think when you see games like Cyberpunk, it's like, no, this could not have run on a PS4. That PS4 would have give the last puff of smoke and just collapsed trying to run some of these graphics.
Yeah.
So I think that was another thing. Like it looked like this is a current gen, like top of the line AAA release DLC. I think that helped as well. Um, and I will say, for my thoughts about Final Fantasy 16, I don't think it's going to win in this category for best narrative, but I can see why it was nominated. I
Mm.
think the concepts of like let's bring Attack on Titan to Attack on Titan meets Game of Thrones to Final Fantasy. I think it's a really cool idea. I think there's some really memorable characters in there, and like I told you guys, those boss battles were like beautiful, beautiful, and the music is beautiful. But it's just the pacing on it is just too slow, too slow. Like if we're just talking from a story, obviously from a story space, not from the gameplay wise. It's like you have the three abilities in the beginning of the game or toward the beginning of the game, and it just drags on and drags on and drags on. You're just like, man, I kind of wish there were more characters involved to kind of fill in this time because it's just they're playing like hide and seek from the powers that be, and then now they have the power, and now they're looking for the back. Like it just wasn't enough building blocks story wise for me. Even though I
Mm.
love some of these ideas to warrant like this. I don't think it's a bad game. I still don't think it's a bad game, but it's just you could tell where it's like it's one of those things where it's like I just wish you guys had maybe worked on this idea just a little bit more, just a little bit more. But I do think the concepts make it a good nominee.
Yeah, it kind of
So,
reminds me of Infamous Second Son. Like it was a fun
mm,
game, but then I felt like the last power that you got was just like, oh yeah, here, but
very
but it's not, but
undeveloped.
it's bare bones. I was like, oh
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Not enough was done with it to kind of warrant like all this build up for this.
No, the
I'm gonna go
biggest
back to my neon powers. Thank you.
no, the biggest letdown was the DLC. And
Mm,
it was like, oh yeah, you're chasing after a paper origami conduit. Oh, and yeah, he's rogue. So if he touches her, we're gonna get paper origami powers. No,
yeah.
all you got was an origami mask for all your hard work.
But
I was like,
you might have a controversial take with that because I've always heard really good reviews about that DLC. That the story was good, the way it played out was really entertaining. No,
it was annoying. It was annoying because it
mm,
had like mobile integration that you had to do, and like some of it was just very annoying, bro. And so you had to go from the mobile back to the game to mobile again, back to the game. And I was like, bro, we did all this for an origami mask. Like the story details was good. Like,
mm,
like you learn more about who the antagonist was and the relationship with the person that we were chasing. But it's just like, bro, like I kind of feel like after we got the video power, everything else we just got cheated on.
yeah.
It's like
Once you
budget.
could
It's like
summon,
budget cuts.
yeah, once you could summon digital angels, we'd already hit the peak of our powers. Fair enough. I guess world building wise, it was cool, but I guess that
But
makes sense.
they
Mm,
did come back with the standalone DLC when you played as Fetch. That was beautiful. I platinum trophy
okay,
the hell out of that.
okay, okay. So mixed bag.
Yeah.
Do we have any thoughts? I mean, I feel like people who are gonna watch it or listen are gonna say like, why didn't you guys say anything about Alan Wake 2? I know on my end, literally, again, the game came out like 2 weeks ago. I have not watched a single cutscene, gameplay, anything about it to say whether or not it deserves to be in any place.
My answer is adult life. I haven't gotten a chance yet, but I will.
Okay. All right, that's fair. I think that is our official excuse for people who are listening. Listen, Tim and I are two grown men who just have not had the time to get to whatever Alan Wake is 2 is offering. Sorry.
Yeah.
Um best art direction. Once again, Alan Wake 2, Hi-Fi Rush, Liza P, Super Mario Brothers Wonder, and The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom.
Art direction. I would definitely say Alan Wake.
Yeah?
From what I did have seen, I love that psychological thriller because especially from what I've seen with uh what's that game called? Oh, it was oh, what was it? What was it? But yeah, like
Oh,
it's
mm,
gonna come back to me. But I really just love like that art style, bro. That real psychological. You don't really know what's about to happen until it happens, and then you're still questioning about life. But my follow up with that, I would just say Life of P, Lies of P.
okay.
Hmm.
Okay. I haven't watched any of the or even played the demo for Liza P yet.
Oh,
For me
now
when
I
I
remember what the
go ahead.
game was called. Control.
Okay. 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 Well, which is made by the same
Yeah,
game development company. So,
yeah.
okay. Yeah, I haven't seen it again. I haven't seen enough of Alan Wake 2 to have an opinion, so I can't say it doesn't deserve to be there. Same thing with Liza P. Anytime I hear Dark Souls like, I immediately tune out, and then I have to kind of get convinced to tune back in. Of like, no, but it's really good. I'm like, is it though? Tired of this kind of subgenre, to be honest with you guys. But I like the fact that it was, apparently the concept is it's a take on Pinocchio. I was like, oh, I was not expecting that to be the story angle. So I'm sure I can only imagine what some of the designs and level designs are probably involved in this game with a concept like that. At a glance, even though I don't think it's going to win, my underdog favorite out of this category is probably going to be Hi-Fi Rush, because it kind of
Mm,
came out of nowhere and it just looks like an anime brought to life in a video game. It's been critically reviewed really well. It looks like a lot of fun to play. Granted, only Jory would know because you and I don't have Xbox.
mm,
But I like the fact that Xbox pretty much like shadow dropped a game. There was really no rollout for it, and it's just like a critical darling, and it looks amazing. So
mm.
in terms of art direction, in terms of like an original IP, which we've all been crying for all year since we even started this pod, I'm like, it's a great original IP.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'd be leaning towards. But I, if I was a betting man, I'd say that your choices of Alan Wake 2 or Lies of P would probably take it home in this category. Let's see. Moving on. Best score and music. Okay, Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Final Fantasy 16, Hi-Fi Rush, and Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom.
Bro, I kind of feel like we just need to just say, yeah, like just watch the show because everybody's kind of pretty much taking over the same category.
Yeah.
You really just gonna have to see let the best man win.
Okay. I'm gonna be super biased. My money's on Final Fantasy 16. Like I told you guys in our little group chat, I'm like, you could legit get a workout into some of those soundtrack selections Final Fantasy 16. Like the way that orchestra comes in on some of these boss battles, I'm like, yo, I want to go bench press a truck right now. Like it's almost like you want to hear a concert of how good some of these songs are in that game. So I'm not saying that the rest of these nominees aren't good, but yeah, Final Fantasy 16 kind of has my vote in that regard. And I guess you're right. We'll kind of see if there's any ones that really catch our eye. I think best performance would be a good category for sure. Um, because just the voice actor and mocap's time. So best performance, we have Ben Starr, Final Fantasy 16. For those who don't know, he plays Clive. Clive is the main character in that game. Then we have Cameron Monaghan. I apologize if I'm butchering your last name. The guy from Shameless. He's in Star Wars Jedi Survivor as Cal Kestis. You have Idris Elba for Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty. You have Melanie Lee Bird for Alan Wake 2. She plays the female investigator. Then you have Neil Newbin for Baldur's Gate 3. Haven't played it, so I'm not sure his character. And then you have Yuri Lowenthal for Marvel Spider-Man 2. Tim, what are we thinking?
Honestly, to go back to my Knuckles comment on a while ago, I'm gonna go with Edge's album, man. Like,
Yeah.
I really am. I'm just proud of seeing actors really just branch out. And voice acting is a very, very, very special thing to my heart, man. To really see your character become anybody else.
Mm,
Like, yes, of course, they did a model of the character very similar to him. That's cool. Digitize a
hmm
person, but I am very happy for him. So I would say Edris Elba, and my second round pick would be, Cal Kestis. That's my boy.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. Okay. For me, I'm gonna have to go with Yuri. Lowenthal. He played Peter, Spider-Man 2. There's just the
Sasuke.
way I can Sasuke, right? The original Sasuke. That's how I first learned about him playing Sasuke in Naruto. But there was two different things that really kind of sold me on his performance, especially in this game. I remember during the Miles Morales expansion when they're doing the marketing for it, right? And the voice of Miles Morales, and he was saying how Yuri kind of coached him on how to deliver the voice lines when they're swinging versus when they're standing still. And if you play the game, the way to deliver the lines is different depending on if you're swinging while they're talking on the phone or if they're standing. And it's like one, they're exerting effort while talking because obviously they're exerting physical effort versus standing still. And I was like, that's such an interesting nuance because as a gamer, I appreciate it, right? But I wouldn't really be like turned off of like, oh, this how is he speaking so effortlessly while he's swinging, right? It's like you don't think about those little things necessarily in a video game. So that kind of stuck out to me, like, oh man, that's crazy that Yuri like made that choice. And then there's a part in Spider-Man 2, especially when he's, I guess spoiler alert, but not really, when he's removing the symbiote suit because duh. And then another part towards the end where he's trying to rescue Harry, where I was like, wow, this
Okay.
performance is
Yeah.
amazing, yo. Like I could hear the pain in his voice. Like he's really trying his hardest to save Harry. And it's like it kind of put me in that moment of like this is someone who's really trying to save one of his best friends. And he doesn't know if he could do it.
Basically, Sasuke versus Naruto role removal.
Reverse, yeah.
Reverse.
Yeah, pretty much. And I'm
Mhm.
just like, I'm like, boy, that is talent, yo. That is talent. To like have that range of like to play again, bully Peter and then come off convincing, and then at the end of the game have like this road to redemption of trying to apologize for that path you were on, and really like I don't want to lose my friend, and I could feel it. Like, wow, he did his thing. So that would kind of be my pick. And then, yeah, I don't really have a second choice, but I did like your choices and your reasons why. I mean, other than just like Cal Kestis, like, yeah, it was cool, it was fine. He didn't take away from his performance at all. It was cool.
Well, I mean, the reason why I like Cal Kestis, man, is because I like this new exploration of the Clone Wars and the traumas from it. And
Mm-hmm.
we've experienced that, through Ahsoka's eyes, and it's good to see it like it through another Padawan's eyes. How did this world shape me and my
Mm,
views about even the conflicting things that he's have to face about the Jedi when he was fighting like the other guy who became like who embraced the dark side. He said, the Jedi fell long ago. They were blinded by their victories, and that's what they became. And then, when we saw more of the animated series and the specials that they did, especially Count Dooku's story, what that Jedi said became true. Is like Mace Windu threw Count Dooku under the bus for a political seat.
mm,
So you started to see like all these stories are really, really connecting together. And I feel like that was the real true beauty of it. Like, yeah, I got to Joy's point about like choosing characters that have like a very close shelf life. He was like, yeah, well, remember, it's before the Clone Wars, but before this, there's only so much you can do. I was like, yeah,
mm-hmm.
that's true. But then, bro, look at also Darth Maul. People thought that this dude was literally dead at the Phantom Pain, but then you find out in Clone Wars he's still alive, and dude did not die till literally probably like 1 or 2 years before A New Hope.
Yeah,
Like
and had a
you,
whole character
like
arc.
you mean to tell me this dude was alive for that long?
Mm-hmm.
And when you really understood all the stuff that he was doing, like under the table to fight the Empire, I was like, bro, Maul was actually your friend who was just evil or
Mm-hmm.
dark, I would say. And but then, like I said, bro, it's a lot of things that contribute to like, especially when you know the story of the character. It's a lot of things that gets thrown in there.
No, and I think that's actually a really good point you brought up about the duality, especially in the second game, right? I think there was obviously, yes, you could see he was kind of prone to like rage or anger in the first game, but I think this really did help kind of further blur that line between the dark side, the force, and the light side of the force of like at some point with Cal, you tap into the dark side powers, right?
Yeah,
And it's like it helps to kind of make him more of a human, right? It's not just like he's not a Yoda character where like there's nothing but the good side of the Force. Like, no, he's hurt, he's angry, he feels betrayed, and things like
yeah,
that.
yeah. What I saw from that story is more of the embracing of the gray Jedi, which is a concept of yeah, typically yes, a Jedi, but like he's not afraid to explore both sides of the duality. So like
Mm-hmm.
yes, most of them, most of the gray Jedi, you do see they have the orange lightsaber crystal. That means they've bled into the crystal. Means they've poured their emotions into it. Yes, remember the dude that you resurrected? He's like, I felt betrayed.
Mm-hmm.
I felt betrayed, and you just saw his crystal just turn. Is because that emotion was just sucked into the crystal, and it really like kind of like shaped his mood in a sense. So like you
Mm-hmm.
even see like the deeper connections with the force, and even how it has on certain objects that they use as their fighting methods. So yeah, I'm interested to see where the trilogy, which I know is the last part, I'm interested to
Yeah.
see where it goes from there and how it connects to the further story. Disney has been doing an okay job with, the multiple releases. I do feel like they're starting to come to an end. So, to be honest, bro, I
Mm,
do feel like we've come to a point we could really wrap up Star Wars, period, like in general.
we could, but you and I have lived long enough. As long as as long as there is a coin to be made, there will be another story.
Yeah.
But you're right. I think yes, not every show has knocked it out of the park, but the fact that we've been able to get various media outlets of Star Wars properties, it's thank God we didn't have to just rely on the movies because Lord knows where the series would be if it was on the backs of that, right? But we've had these other mediums of Star Wars that have allowed the fans to really enjoy the franchise again, right? Like the quality for the most part has been fairly steady and in some way and in some aspects really really good. So
Mhm.
they're clearly listening to fans when yeah, Ahsoka gets her own live action series. Like, oh, a fan favorite has her own show. Like that kind of goes to the extent of like, okay, they're willing to see these storylines to, like you said, to some type of conclusion. And I just hope, I guess, with Kyle's story, to Jory's point, that they take it somewhere that doesn't necessarily have a meaning over on the bigger canon, but this has a bigger meaning in its own story. Like I gotta say it, if I gotta fight Darth Vader again, it's kind of a waste of a game in my opinion. I don't think we need another clash with Darth Vader in whatever the third game of this installment is. I'm sorry, it's cool. I appreciate the fact that it allows us to see how cool Darth Vader is and how powerful he is, but I get it. All right, we get it. We get it. He's him. I understand. There's not too many Jedi that can tangle with him. It's fine. Cool. Cal ran. Darth Vader killed his. I guess you could say, dark side master in the second game. Now she's dead. Like we don't need to see Darth Vader again. It's okay. I understand his contribution to the Empire's advancement. Let's just say.
Yes.
Um, but moving on to another category that we've had many an impassioned conversation about throughout the year: best fighting game nominees. And let's see, we got God of Rock, which I don't even know what that is. No disrespect, I just don't know what that is, but it got nominated. We have, of course, Mortal Kombat 1. Then we have Nickelodeon All Star Brawl 2, Pocket Bravery, and Street Fighter 6. Tim, what are you thinking? What are your thoughts?
Okay. I had to think about because I saw this earlier. I had to really think hard about this, and honestly, I would say Mortal Kombat One.
Mm,
I stand with Mortal Kombat 1 because I do like the revived versions of certain characters. Like the way they did Tanya, Reptile, even Smoke, man. Like, it's just like, wow, bro. It felt so refreshing to see these classic characters brought back in a way. Because I kind of felt like that was the beef that I had with MKX. It's like they went too far with the time skips. They went too far.
yeah.
And it kind of just like, yeah, you don't want to build on classic characters forever. You want to explore more. But I just kind of felt like the new people that they brought in didn't really add anything to it long term.
Mm-hmm.
Because when MK11 came around, you kind of just went back to classic characters.
Retcon all of that anyway. Yeah.
So it kind of just showed, like, yes, there's a way to revitalize classic favorite characters. And, I just really like what they did with the story before the Armageddon finish. Like, I like the
Mm,
fact, like, yes, we're finally getting to see more of Beyond. Like, no more killing him off and that's it. No, Beyond is staying.
yeah.
The relationship with Scorpion and Smoke, yeah, where there is smoke, there is fire, not tundra.
Mm,
Makes sense.
mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, there was a lot of stuff that they did that just made sense, man. And even the revival of certain characters from the 3D era, like Ashra, I was like, okay, this is very, very nice. So I will stand with Mortal Kombat One. I mean, Street Fighter, bro. Capcom, I always have a very weird relationship with them, and I am starting to see a lot of stuff from Street Fighter Five that I don't like. Because first of all, bro, they kind of lost me when you announce Ed, Rashid, and Akuma as DLC characters. You lost me with that. No, no, absolutely not. And one thing with Capcom, when you give them an inch, they take 2 generations.
Yes, they take everything.
They
Not even a
like,
mile. They take everything.
and it's like, bro, like, so I feel like it's gonna be like another Street Fighter Five again, where like this game is not gonna feel complete until probably like the third or fourth season pass.
I would disagree with you. I disagree. I feel like Street Fighter 6 had a lot more to prove than Mortal Kombat did. I think if in I so I actually liked your angle. I'm like, I didn't think about it like that. Like, yes, Mortal Kombat 1 did a really good job of making us care a lot more about the 3D era of characters who, by all intents and purposes, are a lot more forgettable in comparison to the classics. Right. So you're right. You're right. Ashura, or even Havoc, like we all know like that's Jory's favorite, but that's not most people's favorite. Most people are not like a huge Havoc fan. And they made him, in a gameplay style that's just like, yeah, he just kind of magically regrows limbs and uses his bones to injure you. It's like, oh, this is really unique and cool. I think with Street Fighter 6, my thing was because Street Fighter 5 was just so bad throughout this entire I don't even though they're like, yeah, they kind of redeemed themselves towards the end. I'm like, no, this entire game is an L. It's an L. Like they did some cool stuff towards the end. Yes, we finally got the rival schools crossover we've been screaming for years, but this game was an L. And I feel like Capcom had to it was either, put up or shut up when it came to their flagship fighting franchise. And I think for like you said, in terms of what Capcom is known to do, they delivered. They delivered a game where it's like, yes, it's still going to take the DLC to kind of flesh out the roster, but as far as where it could have gone, this is the closest we've come to a Street Fighter 4 esque revival from this franchise in some years to me. So that's why to me, I'm like, I feel like, yes, Mortal Kombat 1 did a lot of cool things, but I'm also somebody who really liked 11, right? So I'm like, if the biggest critique with 11 is like, oh, we just want more combos. Well, Mortal Kombat 1 gave you more combos. There you go. Now you can do air combos and juggles and do all these really cool things with assists. Boom. They solved the one problem they had. The storylines they already had were already good. Street Fighter 6, the storyline of 5 was trash. The roster was trash. The gameplay was, like there was so many things that they had to fix. Of like where it's like when we're talking about up to release, like I don't even know if they'll come through. We were all very optimistic of like, yeah, we think it looks good from what we were seeing, but we were all very skeptical up until its release of like, can they actually pull off a solid game that's worth the full ticket price out the gate? And I think for the most part, outside of some Capcomisms, they delivered.
Yeah, bro. Capcom always gonna get the punches from me. Always.
I'm and again, rightfully so, right? I'm not here as a Capcom apologist at this point. I just think in terms of again, what had to be proven in out of the respective franchises, Mortal Kombat for the most part, has been in my eyes at least has been delivering pretty consistently, with the exception of 10. So, and then the people who love 10. So, even in that case,
I will say this: the Nickelodeon game, they actually came back harder with this round. They realized, like, yeah, we made a lot of mistakes, a lot of mistakes. But they came back.
yeah.
They came back harder with this one. I did kind of feel weird that they took out certain characters, especially and that's why I look at it. It's like, all right, I don't like this revival of the roster for every installment, especially when the installment is technically not a part two, but it's just, all right, yeah, we messed up with one, so let's redo this one and let this be the one that we grow on. Because
Hmm.
it's like, where are some of those DLC characters, and why are they not part of the roster?
Yeah. I mean, you know where I stand on these type of things. I'm like, I'm very, if you're gonna copy Smash Brothers, copy them to the T. I don't understand this whole, like, Smash Brothers just built upon the roster. Yes, there were some cuts along the way. At some point we lost Mewtwo and had to get him back, things like that. But a lot of the staples stayed. And you're right. I do think this Nickelodeon game is a lot better than the first one in a lot of ways. But to your point, it's like you guys you still have to prove yourselves. Like, congratulations on putting out a very solid game, a very fun game, but you still have to prove yourself. Like, there's no reason why there's no Rocket Power representation in the base roster of this game. You're Nickelodeon. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's not, where are they? There's just certain things where it's like, I get it. You're trying to revitalize your IP. You did a better job in terms of having a better scope of representation, I'd say. But you need, you know what I'm saying? Like, we are, not for nothing, the millennial era of Nickelodeon is what carried that channel and that network to greatness.
That's
All
true.
of our things need to be in this game. I shouldn't be asking where's Rocket Power in a Nickelodeon fighter.
But the one fighting game that I'm actually looking forward to is not on the list yet because it hasn't come out yet.
Well, we'll see. I mean, it might get nominated next year if whatever this one in the corner is. What is it again? Um,
Was it?
God of Rock can get nominated. It's possible. I don't even know what that is.
I don't know, bro. I've never heard of that in my life.
Yeah, and we all like fighting games. So I'm like, for us to not be like, I have no idea what that is. It's kind of wild.
Hmm.
Um, let's see. Is there any other? Let's like pick two more, and then we can kind of move on to our next topic. Is there any other categories that kind of stood out to you that you want to talk about?
Let's go over action adventure. That could be the last one.
Okay.
Well, I feel like it's about to be the same five. But look,
I'm gonna pick the category then because it's the same 4 or 5 people.
yeah,
Alan Wake 2, Spider-Man 2, Resident Evil 4, Jedi Survivor, and Jedi Survivor is not winning Best Action Adventure Game, respectfully. So you already know what time it is with that.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, Tears of the Kingdom might win that actually.
Really?
Um, I think so. Just in terms of like what you're able to do, um, as a single player third party offline game, I could see it winning. Um,
Try
I would probably still give it to Spider-Man 2 personally, but I could see Tears of the Kingdom winning that category.
try best adaptation. Let's see what that's looking like.
All right. Best adaptation. Oh, this is movies or shows. Um, so coming from a video game property, we have Castlevania Nocturne, Gran Turismo, The Last of Us, the Super Mario Bros. Movie, and Twisted Metal.
Well, you already know. It was Last of Us.
Of course.
Last of Us.
Of course.
But
And
part two,
hmm,
I would definitely go with Castlevania Nocturne because I love what they did with the Caribbean character story in terms of like
hmm,
slavery, the church, and just
hmm,
overall like the fight scenes was amazing, bro.
yeah.
Amazing.
It I would agree. I'm like, The Last of Us is going to be my pick also, but I would also agree that Castlevania Nocturne was also really, really good. And as for any type of property that involves a time skip of any kind, it can get tricky. Right? People really love the Trevor Belmont aspect of the Castlevania run. So to kind of jump this far ahead and it still be hitting is it says a lot.
Hmm.
Says a lot. Yeah, and apparently Twisted Metal's good too. That's how I've been told. That it's actually kind of all right. That don't let the trailer, the mid trailer fool you. It's actually a really solid show. So I don't know. I haven't watched it yet.
I haven't seen Gran Turismo yet. I actually do want to check that out.
You in the scene, bro. Y'all car racing things. I don't get it. I'm like, I can't do car simulators.
I mean, well, I want to look at it from a narrative way because they said it was
mm.
based off like a true story, from what I've heard.
uh
So I definitely wanted to see it. And then I appreciate Hopper from Strange of Us as an actor. I really like his work, so I
hmm
wanted to see him like in the film.
Okay. We'll talk about the one snub in the room that people have been, talking about to some degree over. Or before I bring up mine, is there any game that you feel like was snubbed, um, that should have maybe been nominated and wasn't?
Um, to be honest, bro, no,
Okay.
no. I feel like all these character references have just been like they're in the loop. They're in the
hmm
loop. They're in the now, especially towards this end. Like whenever it comes to Game Awards, bro, is always the summer and fall selections. We already know that. Or if it is a recommendation from the spring, it has to be
mm
something that had a very lively cycle.
Mm. Okay. So let's talk about it then. Hogwarts Legacy, right? There's been some whisperings that should it have been nominated for something. It
Nope.
sold really well.
Nope.
It did really well reviews. Now, I agree with
Nope.
you. I don't think it did enough to
Bro,
warrant a
this this,
nomination. hmm
this was my beef. No Quidditch.
Come on, Tim.
Nah, bro. That's unforgivable, bro. Trust me,
Come
bro.
on.
That's unforgivable, bro. Unforgivable. Like, bro, when I was watching the trailers, when I was really seeing how this world was building up, I was very hype. Very,
hmm
very hype. Oh, you can do this, you can do that, you can go to these classes. But oh yeah, by the way, there's no Quidditch in this. I was like, what? Nah, bro, for a game that scale, bro, and you took that out or wasn't even included, I was like, nah, bro. Like that was, and when I say that, bro, because when you watch the films, like yes, the sports element of Quidditch was always the that breakaway from the mystery that they're trying to solve in the movie.
Yeah.
It was
It
always
was
that
never it was never a major plot point. It would have been a mini game in this game at best.
okay, that's cool, that is cool, but I just felt like you don't have it, period, bro. Like at all. No, no, I can't stand with that, bro. I can't stand with that. And then there was no DLC update. There was no. It was just like, oh yeah, we're just gonna silently move on to part two and put Quidditch in that. So I was like, all right, well, no nomination then. Goodbye.
I'm surprised that is your deal breaker. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
I did not expect that to be the thing that you're like, no, this is where I draw the line
because
in terms of a game.
you know why, bro. Like for example, remember what I told you? The reason why I didn't buy Tekken 7 up front was because, bro, like that roster was ridiculous.
Mm.
Like they sold you like almost like 80% of like classic characters, bro.
Hmm.
And one of the biggest mini games, they charge you like $12 for, bro. Tekken Bowling. I was like, bro, how is something that we got for free during the PS2 era is something I gotta pay almost $13 for?
Uh,
So Hogwarts Legacy, yes, I took Quidditch very, very hard to the heart. No.
okay. Okay. To me, I'm like, I didn't really see enough game elements to warrant it being game of the year material.
Yeah.
Good game, a game that I think worked a lot better than a lot of people were expecting.
Yes.
Um, but it just wasn't quite there.
And plus, I also do think it's a little jab at you know who for her comment.
Right, right. But to me, I'm like, but then in that's if that was the case, right? If that was the case, why even have the game come out? You know what I'm saying? Like it game came out and it did really well. So I'm like, people weren't that mad. They weren't as mad as they appear on the internet because it sold millions of copies. Someone was managed to separate the art from the artist. Then when they're doing waving they want with their custom character at home. I don't know,
Yeah,
but yeah, I do think you're right. I don't think that I don't want to say the political aspect. I think the powers that be did kind of play a part in that a little bit. It's just hard to say because again, even if that wasn't the case, I still don't think this game was good enough to make it into a category. So
yeah,
it's like it's hard to say of like, is it the powers that be, or is it just like it just wasn't quite there? Right now, let's say they drop Legacy 2 and it's fire, 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 and it still doesn't get nominated. Then I'm like, all right. So we just don't like so they who shall not be mentioned. And at any point, that's what it is. Okay, gotcha.
yeah. I mean, that's a way to look at it.
Okay. All right. That's all I wanted to know in terms of that. And then and other announcements over this past week since our last pod. The Tekken roster has officially been completed. The leak roster was factual the entire time. Everyone that was on that blurry list came to fruition. Some people we just didn't know the names, but it was them.
Hmm.
And Tim, what are our thoughts now that we've revealed yet another side piece child of the great Heihachi himself?
Um, honestly, like this Tekken, I'm looking forward to it. I just felt the roster. It just feels a little weird. Like I could tell, like they're trying to make cuts. Like they don't want redundant characters. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that's probably the reason. Like, oh yeah, there's no Armor King, but then I was like, all right, so where's Julia Chang? Where's Marduk? Like, you mean to tell me Jack 8 is the only heavy character that we have? Or
For
besides
now.
besides the Bears, I would say, because like
Mm-hmm.
even how you just revitalize Kuma, I think that is very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have Nina, but not her sister, and it's like, well, her
Yeah.
sister was DLC last time, so what's up this time? So I mean, and then the whole Colonel Sanders master of the other that bro, that really just took me out, bro. That really did. It's like
He is
you
a cool
really.
design though. It is a
He
cool
has a cool
character.
design. He's a cool design, cool character, but it's just like that bio information
Yeah.
that just took away the hype for Raven and Master Raven for me. Like, oh yeah, like
Yeah.
they're part of this elite group of ninjas hired by the UN, but oh yeah, but here's this
Here,
who as the founder.
yeah. Here's the real leader. Oh, yeah. There it is. God forbid it be the other way around.
Yeah, and I just kind of felt like the diversity, the people of color for this particular roster was just really shafted because it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, you have Raven, yes, you have Leroy, but that's it. So like, where's Eddie Gordo? And then I did feel special about Master Raven being the female of color. I did appreciate that,
Hmm.
and it just kind of feels like, well, you just took that away. Okay.
Do you feel like Tekken was trying to do their version of like really solidify like the worldwide fighter aspect of their franchise this game? Because like on Tekken 7, everyone who's like if they're from Italy, they spoke Italian. If they're like they all kind of spoke their respective languages. Do you feel like maybe this was what they were trying to do? Is like we want to have a very diverse international palette as opposed to like ethnic diversity?
Yeah, it looks so.
Hmm. That's what I thought too. I mean, I agree with you. Like, I think not having Christy, not having Eddie, having Master Raven have a fair skin replacement was not cool in terms of characters we've come to appreciate. But like as I look over the roster now, like I think they're just trying to go for more of like an international representation and clearly bring home the Mishima storyline because Lord have mercy. Like June coming back, Haichi's other child is like the entire bloodline is in this game at this point from jump.
Yeah, it is. I did like what they how they updated Lee. It's like, so the man owns a cybernetics company, but he doesn't use cybernetics until now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, better late than never, I guess. I know people were
I'm.
kind of like cracking on his design though.
It's okay. It's okay with me.
Yeah.
Cybersuit Lee, whatever. I am interested to see what they do with Yoshimitsu, especially like what they've been doing with like more weapon based characters. So I'm very interested to see where they go. But yeah, this Mishima story is getting very interesting because I was like, so this kid who's supposed to be one of his kids, another one, literally
Mm-hmm.
another one. So let's see how all this story elements gets rolled together, man. So I'm really looking forward to it.
And I mean, the thing is, though, is like, what do they do with her? Because they can't exactly give her devil powers, right? Like, she's not from the same mother. Um,
Oh yeah.
so it's just like, is there like I don't know, purple lightning version of the God Fist that she's mastered or something? Like, what is it that's
Well,
gonna make her stand out?
like she's similar like Lars, bro. Remember, Lars is another child, so
Mm-hmm.
it's just like Kazuya. They had it was the one child that he had from a married relationship. The rest of them, like Lee, is adopted. He was literally like has as they say, the anime villain and the orphan child. Pull out your hand, come with me, and then the child turned out to
All
be
for
a
one music
genius.
starts playing.
And the child turned out to be a genius.
Mm,
And then you have Lars who just came in, but I kind of feel like Lars just kind of got shafted after a while, and especially now, here's this new kid.
yeah.
So it's kind of like you really need to kind of like tie these elements together, bro. Because like I'm thinking like, does Kazuya even know Lars is his half brother?
I feel like it's gonna be a focal point for this game. Something the reason Lars returning in such a fashion, in such a stylish way, kind of makes me think that Bandai is like, oh, we didn't realize how much y'all like Lars, so we're gonna like really kind of, again, this is me speculating, really kind of deep dive more into this character and really kind of tie in him being related to this family because clearly y'all like him.
Bring back Lars to Naruto Storm.
Not gonna happen. we we can barely get Naruto characters in Naruto Storm, so we're not getting no more Tekken Games characters. So I mean, that's really the only game things that I had topic wise to cover this week was the Game Award nominees, Grand Theft Auto 6, Tekken. Unless there's something that slipped my mind and trying to bring up, we can kind of move to the anime section of the pod.
There we go.
Okay. So another thing that was on the list for today was just Netflix's animation department. Man, they during the time again that we between pods, we had joked about on the previous pod that Child of Zeus wasn't coming back, and lo and behold, Child of Zeus season 2 got a trailer. It's like, oh, well, okay, all right. So as the list goes on, we have Child of Zeus season 2. We got Devil May Cry. We have Tomb Raider. As of the recording of this pod, they just released the anime version of Scott Pilgrim versus the World. We got Blue Eyed Samurai on Netflix right now. Bruno is it right?
Pluto.
Pluto. I don't know where I came Bruno from. So we have all these different Netflix
Also,
animation things.
Arcane season 2.
Right. Okay. Arcane season 2. And there was these rumors a couple years ago, I think during the pandemic, where that Netflix was. The rumor was that they were moving away from some of their animation departments.
Which is
That was,
crazy.
that was a thing. Like they kind of used it to carry during they used it to carry like the initial lockdown period, and then like, now that once things started opening back up, they wanted to kind of go back live action. But it seems like they're kind of either equaling it out or ramping back up animation wise. So what do you think? Like what are your thoughts about their releases, their quality of releases? Um could they become an eventual competitor to like a Crunchyroll in your opinion?
I foresee it. I do feel like they need to continue to invest into that because
Mhm.
especially when you look at the ones based off like video game adaptations, like Arcane and Castlevania have done very well. So I could only imagine, in terms of like the rich lore, and then obviously gritty style of story play for Devil May Cry and Tomb Raider. I'm looking forward to it, man. Even Blue Eyed Samurai, bro. That trailer was just beautiful, bro.
I started
Beautiful.
watching it. I told y'all in the group chat. I started watching it last night, and it was amazing so far. Granted, again, that 3DS style doesn't hit in every episode. I can't lie. I'd be lying if I said that it works on every episode. But 5 episodes in, and it works more than it doesn't. I will say that. And the animation has been fairly consistent in the fight scenes, and has a pretty nice plot twist out the gate that I think will be appreciated by most, is what I'll say without spoiling anything.
Nah, man. They really need to invest, man, because I feel like they're really on to something that is very, very good. And then, like how you just said, like, this world is one pandemic away from something bad going haywire. So I do feel like, voice acting, animation is still a very good thing to explore. Because
Mm-hmm.
Netflix also has to really realize, bro, that their audience is the definition of diverse. There are people out there who want this type of stuff. And there are people who've never watched anime in their life, who always thought like, oh, that's my boyfriend watching his little cartoons. There were some people who I've never watched anime, sat down and watched Arcane and fell in love with animation. Next thing you know,
Mm-hmm.
they're Demon Slayer lovers, they're Attack on Titan lovers, and so many other things, man. There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of anime series on there.
It's true, and growing. And, like their back catalog, I did not expect them to. Like Netflix, we've all had Netflix for a while. Netflix tends to rotate out some of their shows. So there was a point
Mhm.
where if you wanted to watch the entire thing of Yu-Gi-Oh on Netflix, you could. They had every season, even the fillers. And now they kind of scaled it back to you can't really go past Duelist Kingdom again. And then,
Mhm.
when they started getting One Piece, I was like, oh, yeah, they'll have One Piece for a while. They'll go back to Crunchyroll, and that'll be that. It's like, no, they've, I think, gotten up to like the Thriller Bark arc on Netflix. You could just watch from the episode 1 to Thriller Bark, and like every couple of months, they just keep adding more of the backlog onto that One Piece tab. You can stream
Mhm.
most of the movies of the One Piece movies on there too.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay. I see that they're really making a push now to hold on to some of these licenses a little bit longer. Um, while also pushing forth their own, I can't say original IPs, but original adaptions. Um, I guess my thing is, would you want to see them continue to like roll the dice on um, less well known animes, right? So like how they kind of got Vinland Saga, which ended up being like a critical darling, and things like that, or more so just like their own. Because I don't know what Blue Eyed Samurai is from. Like I don't even know if it's like an original IP.
Honestly, I would say both. I would say both. Like,
Mm.
don't limit yourself to exploration, man. I do feel like, in terms of Crunchyroll, Funimation, I'm still waiting for that Sony merge of them both. Because
Oh
it's like,
yeah.
yeah, because like Sony, you own both of them. So is there going to be.
And I think they what didn't they announce that they were going to merge at some point?
I got to check back and see. But I
Yeah,
would,
I
I would figure that would make the most logical sense.
like I feel like I remember them saying I mean, yeah, I have to check also. I remember seeing it like a discourse on Twitter of like, oh, you're gonna be like your Funimation account is gonna be rolled into your Crunchyroll account. Like, and Crunchyroll will kind of be like the premiere over both. But then I never really heard anything about it again. So I'm like, I don't know.
I mean, we shall see, said the blind man, because we all saw what happened with that WB merger.
Yeah, and it took us to places we did not expect or necessarily want to go for the most part.
But yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
overall, but overall,
Go
I
ahead.
feel like, sorry to cut you off, but overall, I feel like Netflix is in a good place in terms of their anime. I know for a fact Arcane season 2 is going to be a big release, big
Mm-hmm.
release. Like, so many people have said, like, yo, that last episode made me cry because
Mm-hmm.
that's how involved these people were with the characters, man.
Yeah, it was. I think we talked about that too. It was like I've never played an arcane game. I don't know anything about the world, and I appreciated that they were able to craft something where it's like you don't have to know anything about what's going on over there to know what's going on with these characters. The pacing was done great. the backstory of these characters. Something that we usually run to animation is that you'll have a better concept than execution. Where it's like, this character design looks fire. I don't know anything about them. Oh no, they're dead. Right? You're just like, okay. Right? I feel like Arcane is like, anytime something happened, good or bad, to these characters, you're just like, wow, this resonated a bit. Like this writing was solid enough that I was invested to see how this character's arc played out.
You do know what I think is going to come after a Devil May Cry anime, a Street Fighter anime. I think it's coming. I think it's coming, bro. I think it's coming.
You're right. It's probably inevitable.
Because
I don't want it, bro.
They've done Devil May Cry and they've done Onimisha. I don't know how to,
Yeah. They've done Tekken Bloodlines, which I wasn't crazy about. I was not a fan.
I appreciated the Tekken 3 story. I appreciated it for what it was. Yeah, there were some parts it was like, okay, but it was good to see Tekken 3 in that fleshed out story mode. So I'm looking forward to see what Bloodlines 2 Tekken 4 does.
Okay. I guess in my thoughts, I'm kind of with you. I do think Netflix, even after all these years, they've kind of proven themselves to be the innovators, which is wild. There was a time where I would argue that Netflix had kind of grown stagnant, right? Where it's like, whether it be their anime releases or their live action releases, it was the coin toss of in quality. Sometimes they drop, Squid Games, and it's the most fire thing you've ever seen in terms of concept. And then the next thing you know, they drop. I'm trying to think what was like an instant flop on Netflix. Give me anything. Whereas like they would drop certain things that just like were kind of like dead on arrival.
I would say most of those Halloween movies.
Yeah, the Fair Street series was not the greatest.
It had so much potential, bro.
It did. I watched all three. I just felt like it wasn't the great. Like the what they had and what they did, it were not one and the same. Is what I mean. Like it was.
Like,
I couldn't recommend it to anybody after watching them. Is what I would say. Like I wasn't like, oh, you gotta watch Fair Street. To me.
Because it was like, all right, so it's made by R.L. Stein, so it's kind of like an adult Goosebumps. Like, it had potential. But there were some kinks that they didn't iron out the proper way.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that's a good counter example, right? So again, we just seen it where it's like, the live action Cowboy Bebop did not work, even though it should have. Did not work. Whereas somehow, some way, they managed to make One Piece decent. The thing that should have flopped on Arrival was kind of all right. It was kind of all right, So we're starting to see this thing where it's like Netflix is still finding ways to push the streaming culture forward. Like that's just really what it is. And what you said about the WB merger, where it's like the WB, like Max should have had such a foothold on the animation department with the properties that they own, especially when it comes to the DC animated properties. And for them to be kind of struggling to find their way while Netflix again continues to push forward, is just kind of weird to see. It's like, you guys have such beautiful IPs. Like Harley Quinn is getting like a 5th season. Like that's how well it's doing. Like, what are y'all doing over there? So to kind of see in 2023 Netflix kind of, at least again animation wise, regain its footing, put out things that where it's like, okay, I can't wait to finish Blue Eye Samurai and go to Pluto, right? Like just like this list, like my list is now growing on Netflix again, where it was kind of stagnant for a while. Like, oh, can't wait to watch that. Can't wait to watch that. And not having to suffer through another season of Big Mouth alone. I think it's good to see. It's good to see that diversity kind of reemerge within Netflix.
Yes.
So, yeah. That's again. I think this was like a pretty light topic episode today. I did notice at the time of the recording, even though we were joking about it last episode, it seems that the animation studio Mappa, who has greenlit everything under the sun, they've been a trending topic on Twitter for like the past 3 days because of apparently there was a series of tweets somebody put into a thread I'll try to see if I can find it while we're recording. Of different animators who have been working under Mappa, especially under Jujutsu Kaisen season 2, who have been tweeting some very cryptic things about their work environment. One going so far as to tweet like a little animation character with a noose around its neck, right?
Mm.
And Jory's spoken about this in great length. You and I have also spoken about this, about some of the working conditions over there. And one of the things that we've all kind of wondered out loud is like, how is it that Mappa's able to do Attack on Titan, Jujutsu Kaisen, Chainsaw Man, One Punch Man? Like they don't have the world's biggest staff. They're not Toei, right? It's like it's not a small staff, but it's not that big of a staff for you to be taking on these essentially well-known properties. How are you able to do this without a crunch ecosystem? So yeah, they've been trending for the past 2 days. There's been some controversy with the latest release of the Jujutsu Kaisen episode, where it's like certain things look unfinished almost, and there's been tweets that have confirmed it from the animation staff, like, yeah, we didn't get a chance to do the episode the way we wanted to.
Mhm.
So yeah, what are your thoughts about that, Tim? And that'll probably be our last topic for the night. Like, how do you feeling now that the crows are coming home to roost, or so it seems, with that studio?
Well, I mean, I definitely would say, it's going to hurt, viewers. It's going to hurt viewers, but I do feel people are in a very intricate space of life where they do want to speak up about the quality of their lives. This war across the seas has really opened up people's eyes. Like, yes, really speak up for yourself, fight for yourself. And yeah, it may cost you your job, but then, people are saying, like, but I'm tired of sacrificing my life.
Mm.
I'm tired of withering away every day because this is something that I chose that I wanted to bring like nourishment and joy to my life. Because there are people who enjoy the stories that they create, the characters that they create. Like, yes, it's for financial gain, and it's for like for the viewers to absorb and to continue to build the world and enjoy the world that they've built. But then, if a corporation is basically a slave master, the quality just deplenishes.
Yeah. And what makes it worse is that it seems like that's been, again, just more of the outpouring and outspeaking of what's been going on with them. It's like it is giving high key slave master, like high key, of just they're not able to do their deadlines are like ridiculous and things like that. And it's just like this is not, like, granted, they've dropped some really good episodes from that, I'd say, like, some of the anime. Sorry, I'm like looking up for that little tweet so I can post it, but it's fine. um some of the anime Twitter have really been giving Mappa and their animators their props for, especially the two previous episodes of Jujutsu Kaisen, with the Kurama of or the Hollow Ichigo of the Jujutsu Kaisen world, Sukuna, and the things that he displayed and the abilities that he displayed, and just the choreography that was displayed in those episodes. And it's beautiful. Like, clearly they have some talent there, but to then, like you said, go onto this Twitter space and seeing these people crying out for help, essentially, like, I haven't seen my family in a week, or these deadlines are so ridiculous, and I'm not being compensated enough to even warrant the fact that I'm sleeping in my office to get these deadlines made. Um, it almost kind of feels like, I'm not sure what the strike industry looks like over there, but it's like you said, we're on what feels like the precipice of another great disruption. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what it feels like. Of like, I can see this leading to a snowball's effect of, first it's the Mappa, artist that speaks out. Then maybe it's another studio. Maybe we finally get some justification for how the Shonen Jump manga artists are treated, right? Where it's like there has to be a way in which we can continue to get these quality products. Anime is being consumed at a higher volume than it's ever been before, ever, right? Where it's like, can we do this in a way that seems healthy? Again, look at One Piece. One Piece has been dropping fire week after week. Again, we don't know, right? I would like to assume that Toei has enough staff, but I haven't heard any complaints in months. Right? All you've seen is people like, yeah, thank you, Toei, for giving me the opportunity to draw this one panel of Gear 5 and da 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 da. I'm like, oh great, like I'm happy to see freelancers getting a chance to shine and have a healthy working space. And it's just like I don't see why, with such a love for anime, with such a love for that space, with so many people who are really getting their animation starts on places like Twitter and Instagram, why is there not a way in which we can incorporate a healthy working space now that you can pull from globally, not just locally? Right? Like, why has it gotten to a point that Mappa is trending because they're still using archaic work practices, allegedly, in their space?
I think it's also demand because people want something new very at a much faster pace. And I do
Mm,
feel like, due to the way the world works, like, oh yeah, the streams for these shows need to go up. We need more integration. We need more of this. We need more of that. Just like how you said, we need to sell more toys. But
mm-hmm,
in order to sell more toys, we need to create new characters. We need to advance the story. We need to be trending on Instagram. People need to be making reels of the animations.
mm.
Remember, like all those different forms of medias, they play in a very vicious circle, man. So, like for example, like when the Centaur lady did El Bonka, bro. You know how many reels of that I saw? I lost count. I lost count, bro.
Mm-hmm,
To this day, it's still popping up on my feed.
mm-hmm,
Bonkai and all the rooms coming. She just slaughtered all of them.
mm-hmm. This time with a new filter on the video, with a new echo effect on the video. Here it is in 4K 120p of her murking the Quincy's. Yeah, you're
And
right.
and and, and as I said, that demand, bro. That demand is very very high.
Mm.
Especially like when people get hooked on the anime, bro. We need a video game. We need like, bro. We only have 10 characters. So what?
Is that shade I hear, Mr. Smith, towards Jujutsu Kaisen's upcoming game? That
Of
sounds like a
course,
little shade.
of course it is. We only got 10 characters. Granted,
Touche.
10 characters. Granted, 10 characters can work because we grew up on arcade days. Okay, cool. But it's just I kind of feel like when you invest into a video game, especially as of now, especially since fighting games have the longest longevity now,
Mm.
it needs to be a world that is deep enough, I would say.
Mm.
And that's
And I
where,
mean, to be fair,
yeah,
I think Jujutsu Kaisen, if we're using that as an example, like the characters are very unique, very unique. Like no one really fights like each other in that world too much. Um, to me, my thing would be like it's just more so the presentation of that particular game. Like, why does this look so ugly? Versus like I think it could work, you know.
well, sometimes, bro, I do feel like some animations when you do crossovers, it just doesn't stick well, man. Like
Mm,
for example, that's why I felt about One Piece because, like, yes, bro, One Piece, the live action, it was enjoyable, it was funny, but I do realize, like, yes, some of that animation is not coming to this, and I should not expect that.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it's not coming, bro. Like,
There's been think pieces of like, how are you guys gonna make Chopper work? How is that even gonna work? A talking, walking reindeer character.
yeah, yeah, bro, and even the factor of I was even thinking like the future levels of hockey, like when they do the armament, like so your whole skin just gonna turn black. Or when he starts to get up in the gear stages, or when you and like just like how you said, when you include more Zoan characters,
Yeah.
how's that gonna work? Because you saw their whole CGI budget went to that one sea dragon that they had.
uh, you, that's
Because the
actually a
Arlong
good
Park,
question.
because the
Yeah,
Arlong Park, I was like, where's Momo? Where's the sea cow?
budget ran out, bro. Couldn't do all that. Um, the zones could work. The zones could work. They'd have to do the hybrid form model basically the entire time, but it could work. Like you could do that. That would work for Lucci. That would work for the wolf character. Kaku might be a little tricky because he's a giraffe, but it could work. You could do prosthetics. They made that sheep man from Syrup Village work somehow.
Well, technically, he's not a Zoan. He's just
Yeah, but they could have just cut his character. Like he wasn't like integral to the plot, and they still like, nope, we're gonna put him in makeup and give him the horns and the wool and everything. It's like, okay, okay. And technically, when Garp and Luffy fight at the end, Garp is using hockey. He's using what's it called, observation hockey. So I'm
Yeah,
like,
but then
they've
remember, like
already
I
kind
said,
of hinted at it.
so
The
remember,
armory,
like
though,
I said,
you're right.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how that works. I mean,
Or
Gear
even,
2, Gear 3 could work. It's just visual effects at that point.
but then like I said, bro, one of the biggest things of like One Piece is those facial expressions, them Looney Tunes
Yeah,
facial expressions.
yeah,
You can't do that, bro. You can't.
yeah,
You can't. You just can't.
yeah. Yeah, that we'll see. We'll see. Like you said, we'll see, said the blind man. Time will tell. I think I don't know. I don't like you said, the demand for anime is at an all-time high. Um, like I've told you in the past and Jordan in the past, like I have a habit of, I mean, it's not in frame, but I like a habit of collecting um like monumental moments in certain mangas, right? So it's like if it's like the Enies Lobby fight in One Piece, like I have all those volumes on a shelf somewhere. Uh, Goku versus Frieza, I have that on a shelf somewhere. And I've been collecting manga for a while. I don't have as many volumes as you see in some of these content creator videos, but I have a nice little collection. And I've noticed that the wait times between manga has just increased like huge, 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 huge. It used to be like every month you get a new volume, especially if it was already out in Japan. And I got like I think the most recent volume of I think of like One Piece, and like the next volume doesn't drop till like February of next year. You know, and it's just like I think what you said, a demand of like they can't keep up with the amount of copies that have to go out, the accuracy of the translations, because they'll get cooked online if they mistranslate something, and it's just like, are we going to kind of reach a point where there's more demand than there is resources in the anime world? Like, is that even a possibility?
Yeah, yeah, bro. I mean, 'cause the way economies are shifting now these days, wages, time, people who have families, the demand is just inhumane.
Hmm. Okay. All right. I mean, I hope they figure it out. Again, we seem to see studios that seem to have something, some type of work schedule that makes sense. We talked about the last podcast how Demon Slayer, they managed to drop 3 straight seasons of Fire, and we've heard no outcries of someone being, held against their will in that computer room. So maybe UFO Table is the way to go when it comes to animating big properties, but something has to shift, and we're starting to see what's either going to be a massive strike or a massive collapse somewhere. Like the demand is outweighing the human the human side of this business. At some
Hmm.
point, you can't, unless knock on wood, they start to incorporate AI into some of these productions. How else can you keep up with, like you said, these turnaround times and these just the demand for product? So yeah. I mean, that's pretty much our episode for tonight. Once again, if you're watching us on YouTube, please like, subscribe, leave comments. We try our best to get back to them when you do leave a comment, especially if it's something constructive. If you're listening on any of the streaming platforms, please subscribe. Same thing, comments help us a lot. And yeah, this has been episode 19 of the Gamer Podcast. Once again, I am Antonius the Gamer with Mykale Smith, and we'll see you guys soon for episode 20.